All right, so are you ready? Today we are going like full on deep dive into barefoot running.
Ooh, barefoot running.
I know this is something that you've
Yeah,
been wanting to hear about,
I
so
have been hearing about it.
we have got like three sources.
Okay.
We've got healthreporter.com, got a really comprehensive guide from them.
Mm.
We've got Cleveland Clinic. They kind of look the pros and cons,
Hi.
and Live Science, which kind of goes into like the real science of it.
Oh, nice.
So by the end of this deep dive, you will have all the info
Okay.
to figure out, like, is this for you? Should you ditch your shoes?
I am ready to ditch these
Or
shoes.
should you, like, stick to what you're doing? So,
Well, what I think is so interesting about barefoot running is it's like having a moment right now.
mm-hmm.
And I think it really caps into that like primal instinct, you
Mm-hmm.
know? We as humans ran barefoot for like millennia before we had all this fancy footwear.
That's true. Like,
Yeah,
we're rediscovering something our bodies
that's
were
all we.
maybe meant to do.
Yeah.
And healthreporter.com mentioned this guy, Baby Bakila,
Oh,
who won the 1960 Olympic marathon barefoot.
wow. Barefoot. What? No shoes.
No shoes.
That's incredible.
It's unbelievable. So it makes you think, like, is there something to this whole barefoot thing, or is it just hype? You know what I mean?
Right, right. Well, there's definitely some potential benefits. I mean, all three sources talk about 'em.
Okay.
Like for starters, it can totally change how your foot hits
But
the ground.
yeah.
With big cushioned shoes, you tend to land on your heel.
Right.
But when you're barefoot, there's no support there.
Yeah.
So you almost instinctively land on like the ball of your foot.
Oh,
It's called a forefoot strike.
okay.
Yeah.
And so how does that change things? Like, is it actually better to land on the ball of your foot?
It can be, yeah.
Mm.
A forefoot strike usually leads to shorter strides,
Mm-hmm.
better alignment. You become like a more efficient runner.
Okay.
And some experts think it can even reduce stress on your joints.
That makes sense, I guess, if you're landing more gently. Right.
On the ball of your foot, you're not getting that jarring heel strike
Each
with
side.
each step.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
And that actually leads to the idea of like stronger feet.
Okay.
All the sources agree that barefoot running can strengthen
Interesting.
the
Yeah.
muscles, the tendons, the ligaments in your feet, and that can like have a ripple effect.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like your whole kinetic chain.
Kinetic chain. What's that?
It's basically how all the joints and muscles in your body
Oh, okay.
work together, like a chain reaction.
Gotcha.
So stronger feet can actually improve your stability and power
Wow.
up through your legs and your core.
I never realized it was all so connected.
It is, it is.
So stronger feet, more efficient running. What else did they say about like the potential benefits?
So this is where things get a little more
Oh.
controversial. Healthreporter.com talks about this thing called earthing
Earthing.
or grounding. It's this idea that being in direct contact with the Earth's surface could actually have benefits for your health. Okay. I have never heard of that. What kind of benefits are we talking?
Like they mentioned better sleep, reduced stress, maybe even antioxidant effects.
Really?
It's a fascinating concept,
Yeah.
but I think the science on it is
Right.
still kind of limited.
Yeah. I mean, it does sound intriguing, though. This
Yeah.
idea that we've like somehow become disconnected from like something as basic as the ground beneath our feet.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if that disconnection is actually contributing to part of
Yeah.
the health issues we see.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I think with these claims especially, we should approach them with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because it sounds good doesn't mean it's true.
True. True. True.
Yeah.
So we've got potential benefits for our running form, stronger feet, maybe even some grounding benefits. Are there any downsides
Oh, yeah.
that we should be thinking about?
Definitely. I mean, all that exposure comes with some risks.
Okay.
Healthreporter.com goes into detail about like the increased risk of cuts and punctures and even infections if you're not careful.
That's a good point.
Think about all the stuff your feet are exposed to when you're running barefoot.
It's true.
Glass, rocks, thorns, bacteria, fungi.
Like, you don't think about it when you're wearing shoes, but our feet are pretty vulnerable.
They are.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the Cleveland Clinic was kind of cautious in their assessment of barefoot running.
Okay.
They were saying that without the cushioning of shoes,
Yeah.
you're putting way more stress on your feet
Oh.
and your lower legs.
Oh.
And that could lead to overuse injuries like stress fractures, Achilles tendonitis, even plantar fasciitis, especially if you're not transitioning carefully.
So it's not as simple as just like
No,
taking off your shoes and...
it is not hitting the pavement.
No, there's
No.
definitely a right way and a wrong way.
So technique is
Technique is key.
key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Healthreporter.com really stresses the importance of landing softly on the forefoot
Okay.
and avoiding that aggressive heel strike.
And they suggest starting on softer surfaces like grass or sand
Okay.
to give your feet time to adjust.
So it's like learning to run
Yes.
all over again.
It really is, yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't expect your body to just adjust to running barefoot overnight, would you?
No, not at all.
So what would you say is the most important thing for someone to consider before they even think about trying barefoot running?
I think the biggest thing is to be honest with yourself about your fitness level
Okay.
and any foot conditions you might have.
Yeah.
You're dealing with an injury or your foot muscles are weak. Jumping into barefoot running could do more harm than good.
Right.
It's always a good idea to talk to your doctor or a physical therapist
Excellent.
before you make any drastic changes to your routine.
Yeah. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a new trend.
Right.
But like you said, we need to remember that our bodies are complex and what works for one person might not work for another. So listening to our body signals is important.
Exactly. And that brings us to minimalist shoes.
Oh, yeah, the minimalist shoes.
Yeah, all our sources mention those as
Right.
a potential compromise.
Okay.
They offer some benefits of barefoot running, like a more natural foot strike.
Okay.
But, you still get better protection.
So that they're like a stepping stone between traditional running shoes and going full barefoot.
Yeah, exactly. Like training wheels for your feet.
I love that.
Yeah.
Training wheels. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like minimalist shoes could be a great way to ease into this whole barefoot thing without going all in right away.
Totally.
Okay, so far, it sounds like barefoot running has this potential to improve our running form, maybe strengthen our feet, maybe even some of these unexpected health benefits grounding. But it's not without its risks. It requires careful consideration, proper technique, and really paying attention to what our bodies are telling us. And for those of us who aren't ready to go full barefoot, it sounds like minimalist shoes are a really good option.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great summary of where we are.
Sure.
But this is just the beginning.
Ooh.
We're going to get even more practical in the next part of our deep dive. We're going to talk about how to transition to barefoot running safely, how to take care of your feet, and, we're going to figure out, is this whole trend really worth the hype?
Okay, I'm excited to keep digging in. This is definitely making me rethink my relationship with running, and I can't wait to hear what other insights you have to share. So we'll be back in just a minute.
Sounds good.
All right, so we've talked about the good and the bad of barefoot running.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's not a decision to take lightly.
No.
But what if someone is listening and they're thinking okay, this sounds kind of cool. Where do I even start?
Well, that's where the practical steps come in. And actually, healthreporter.com has a pretty detailed transition guide.
Okay.
It's really all about easing your body into this new way of running.
Yeah, I bet going from super cushioned shoes to zero protection would be a bit of a shock.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the first things they emphasize is starting on softer surfaces,
Oh, okay.
like grass, sand, even a rubberized track.
Yeah.
Those surfaces are going to give you that barefoot feel,
Yeah.
but they're a little more forgiving than concrete.
So no pounding the pavement right away?
No, not right away.
Okay, good to know.
As your feet get stronger, then you can gradually transition to harder surfaces.
So is that really the goal? Tougher skin on our feet?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Your feet need time to adjust.
Okay.
They even suggest starting with just 10 minutes of barefoot running per session,
Wow.
and then increasing that by 5% each week.
Okay.
And they really emphasize you might not be able to run as far or as fast initially.
Right.
It's a different kind of challenge.
Yeah. That's really interesting, though. It makes me think about how much we rely on our shoes to do the work for us.
We do. We do.
Yeah.
And when you take those shoes away, your feet have to work a lot harder.
Okay.
All those tiny muscles and tendons that might have been dormant suddenly have to engage.
So it's almost like a whole body workout then,
Yeah,
in a way. You're engaging muscles you didn't even know you had.
exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
And that can be a good thing.
Yeah.
Stronger feet, better stability, potentially fewer injuries down the road,
As long as you do it right.
as long as you do it right. Yeah.
What about minimalist shoes? We talked about those as
Yeah, like the middle ground.
yeah, the middle ground.
Right.
What do they have to say about transitioning to those?
It's a similar approach. Short runs, slowly increase your mileage,
Okay.
and really pay attention to how your body's feeling.
Yeah.
Because minimalist shoes still offer less support than traditional running shoes.
Right.
So it's important to give your feet and lower legs time to adapt.
It sounds like the key takeaway is just to be patient
Yeah,
and respect your body's limits.
totally, yeah. And that brings up another really crucial point.
Okay.
All three sources stress this. Listen to your body.
Yeah.
If you're feeling any pain or discomfort,
Right.
don't try to push through it.
Makes sense.
That's your body telling you something's wrong.
So take rest days, maybe talk to a doctor or physical therapist if you have concerns.
Exactly, exactly. They can help you figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe even give you some exercises to strengthen your feet
Okay.
and prepare them for barefoot running.
Yeah, I think that's a good reminder that there's no shame in seeking professional guidance,
No, not at all.
especially with something as complex as our bodies.
Especially our bodies, yeah. One thing that struck me
Yeah.
reading these articles was how much detail they gave
Uh-huh.
about foot care for barefoot runners.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you don't really think about it
You don't.
until you start running without shoes. But it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You're exposing your feet to everything.
Right, the elements, rough surfaces.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basic hygiene becomes even more important.
Okay.
They recommend washing your feet thoroughly after every run,
Makes sense.
keeping your toenails trimmed,
Yeah.
bandaging any cuts or scrapes right away,
Okay.
even using moisturizer if your skin gets dry or cracked.
It's amazing how something as simple as running can become so complex when you take away the shoes.
No, right.
It's really interesting.
But that's also kind of part of the appeal, I think.
Okay.
It challenges our ideas about what's normal
Right.
and makes us really think about our relationship with our bodies and
Yeah.
how we move.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that perspective. It's not just about fitness.
It's not, no.
It's about awareness, connection.
Yeah.
But with all these potential risks, like, why even bother?
That's a great question.
What's the payoff?
And I think it's one that we'll get into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We talked about the physical benefits. Better running form, stronger feet, maybe even fewer injuries.
Right.
But there's also like a mental and emotional component to
Yeah.
barefoot running that can be really rewarding.
All right. So we've covered a lot,
We have.
literally and figuratively, right?
Yeah.
Benefits and risks of barefoot running.
Yeah.
Talked about technique, transitioning, foot care, the whole 9 yards.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up,
Hey.
what do you think? Big picture.
Big picture.
Is this barefoot running thing a fad, or is there something more to it?
That is the question, isn't it?
It is the question.
The million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a simple answer.
Fair enough.
But I think, like, if I had to sum it up from all these articles,
Okay.
I think barefoot running is like an invitation
Ooh, an
to reconnect with something,
Okay.
something primal, something we've lost touch with
Interesting.
in our modern world, you know?
Yeah, I like that. It takes the pressure off. It's not like you have to do this.
Right.
It's more like an exploration.
It's an exploration.
Better way of moving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for some people, that exploration could lead to a huge shift
Okay.
in how they experience running. Maybe even life in general.
That's a big statement.
Yeah, it is. It is. Remember we were talking about those grounding benefits?
Yeah.
Even if we just set aside like the scientific debate,
Okay.
there's just something so powerful about like feeling the earth beneath your feet,
It's true.
you know?
Yeah.
Feeling those textures, those temperatures.
Yeah, it's like a whole other sensory dimension
Right?
that we've been blocking out with our shoes.
We have. And I think that sensory input can really affect
Okay.
our mental and emotional state.
Interesting.
Some barefoot runners talk about feeling more grounded,
Okay.
more connected to nature, just more present
Makes sense.
in their bodies.
It's like a form of meditation almost. You're just tuning in,
Yeah,
being more mindful.
exactly.
It makes me think about how we like put our lives in these little boxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Physical health, mental health, emotional health.
Right.
But maybe those things aren't as separate as we think.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe changing the way we run can actually like
Right.
impact all of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
that's really cool. Any final thoughts for our listeners?
Final thoughts.
Yeah.
I think if you are even a little bit curious about barefoot running,
Yeah.
just try it.
Okay.
Approach it with curiosity.
Right.
Experiment.
Yeah.
Start small. Be patient. Listen to your body.
Good advice.
You might be surprised by what you learn, not just about running, but about yourself.
That's a great way to wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah.
It's not about like, winning races or whatever. It's about experiencing the world in a new way,
Totally.
connecting with ourselves.
Yeah.
Maybe taking off your shoes is like the first step to like a whole
Hey.
new path,
I love that. Yeah. If any of our listeners try this out, let us know how it goes.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
We would.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep.
Dive in.